Welcome to Josephine Sculpture Park. I'm Jeri Howell, the program director here at JSP, and thank you for joining us for our first Sunday guided nature tour. Since we're temporarily closed due to COVID-19, we are bringing you virtual programs, and so this first Sunday guided nature tour is done via video. So thanks for tuning in. We're going to cover some of Josephine Sculpture Park's conservation practices, which we've been able to dive into a lot since we've been closed. Josephine Sculpture Park is 30 acres in total. We recently purchased 10 acres, and this includes this area that I'm showing you here now with the old tobacco barn right there. And so typically when you're entering Josephine Sculpture Park, this would be on your left from the main driveway. And so we're in the process of fixing up that old tobacco barn to host classes and exhibits and workshops, events. You'll be able to rent that barn for events. And in front of it is a very special project that we've been working on with our friends at the NRCS, Franklin County Cooperative Extension, and Inside Out Design, and Joyce Bender, one of our fabulous board members. We are installing a 2.5 acre native wildflower and grass meadow here, right in front of the tobacco barn. So the process that we have taken is preparing this area for about a year, probably closer to 2 years. And so that is killing the weeds that are there. And then we're now in this stage, which we realized with all this rain that we've had, that we had some serious erosion issues. So I'll walk you a little bit closer. This is an old tobacco and corn field. It might have also been soybean at one point, I'm not sure. But when an area is farmed over and over like this, it's very common to see some erosion issues. And so we had some rills forming in the field, and our park manager, Riley Fichter, and Melanie Van Houten, the founding director, were able to use some soil and fill in those rills. And then with recommendation from Franklin County Cooperative Extension and NRCS, we put these straw bales here just to kind of hold the soil in. And then recently, just last week, I believe, Inside Out Design came and seed drilled a rye cover crop to really hold that soil in. So that rye should be coming up. And this fall, we'll be seed drilling again a mix of native wildflower and grasses from seed. So we are super excited about that. This is going to be a beautiful meadow. You don't need 2.5 acres to make an effective or a beautiful or ecologically important native meadow. You can do it in your front yard, even if it's a really small front yard. If you're mowing grass in your front yard or in your backyard, you can choose a patch there and clear out the vegetation that's there right now. And then with preparation, which there are lots of great resources, the Xerces Society, National Wildlife Foundation has great resources of how to do that. So you can prepare that patch in your yard and get some native seed mix. And you can choose if you want to attract butterflies, if you want to attract bees, if you want to attract birds. There are different mixes that can help you achieve the goal that you want. And then you can plant it, and you won't have to mow your yard all spring or summer. And it's very low maintenance, and the benefits are incredible. You'll see an increase in insects probably within that first year. And it can be a really beautiful, joyful thing, especially if it's in your front yard and your neighbors can see it, and kids can walk by and really notice all of those beautiful interactions among species, and how just planting this one small patch with native wildflowers and native grasses, or a native tree, can really increase the diversity of species in your neighborhood. Here at Josephine Sculpture Park and several other parks around the state are wanting to reintroduce or re-encourage the child outside as a species in nature, and really increase the opportunity for nature play and unstructured play outside. There are tons of amazing developmental and health benefits for children and adults when they spend unstructured time outside, just letting their curiosity take them and being in a safe place where they can really explore nature and play and imagine. So I'm showing you this empty field right here because this is the site of Josephine Sculpture Park's nature playground or nature play space. And I'm super thankful that Andrew Marsh, another amazing board member and artist himself, a sculptor, is helping us build some really cool natural play equipment. And we'll be working with hopefully a couple more artists in designing some play spaces here. And really, we're just going to use the natural materials that we have at the park: fallen trees, logs, soil, dirt, making mounds and tunnels. And we're really going to leave it up to kids and families to activate the space. So this nature play space is going to maybe start around here. And then, as I'm showing you, we're going to walk to the future site of an earth mound with a tunnel going through the middle, hopefully. And then you have this baby cedar forest here. And bouncing in and out of the cedars, and that beautiful oak tree right there. We kind of call it the grandmother tree, lovingly. So bouncing in and out of these cedars will be Andrew's sculpture, which will be climbable, playable. You can activate it however you wish. And it will continue on to our bird blind, which I'll show you next. Last summer, we had an artist in residence from Western Kentucky named Justin Roberts, and he constructed this bird blind out of willow and used harvested invasive plant material from the park to build the frame: pear trees, honeysuckle. And so this is me inside the bird blind. You can see birds flying around. So this project was sponsored by Frankfort Audubon Society. And this beautiful bird feeder station right here was donated by Frankfort's Wild Birds Unlimited store. You can see some birds there now. And so I'm peeping through this is the adult bird blind hole you can look through. And then there's a shorter one for folks who are shorter. And you can still see the bird feeders there. And you might have noticed that there's some tape up and around. That's because we had a planting, and we've planted several hundred native plants with the help of Connie May with Chrysalis Natural Landscape. She helped us design the planting and select the plant species, and we ordered those from Drop Seed Native Plant Nursery. And our friends at Frankfort Audubon Society, the Habitat Workshop, our interns, and some other volunteers helped us plant it during our planting day. And the plants were purchased with help from Wild Ones Lexington chapter, as well as the Swains. So now I'm standing in front of Justin's sculpture, which is titled Sounds of the Whippoorwill. And right in front of Justin's sculpture is the first section of plantings that we did. And we're just going to check out how this spotted St. John's wort is doing. So when we planted these, they were quite small. So you can see now the spotted St. John's wort is doing beautifully. Here we go. Yeah. So you can see it's just a gorgeous color, green with this purplish red around the edges here. And this will get a yellow flower in June or July. Here at JSP, we also have lots of common yarrow growing naturally here. So we didn't have to plant this yarrow. It's growing all over this nature playground area and where the bird blind is. It's a beautiful plant. So what makes this site so great to attract birds is that we have varied habitat, and it kind of has these zones of transition where birds can hide. For example, I'm over to the side of the bird blind here. We have these eastern red cedars that give you birds a nice year-round cover. So they can nest in here, they can hide in here from predators. And then they can fly into this middle kind of transition area, which is where we have the bird feeder, and eventually we'll have a native plant meadow. And a lot of those plants will attract beneficial insects for pollination, but also to serve as food for birds. So that'll be kind of like a buffet for the eyes of visitors as well as for birds. And then we also have hawks here, like in all of Kentucky. And so when birds are out in an open area like that, they're susceptible to be hunted by hawks, for example. So this is nice in that the birds can go get their food and then fly back to safety in these cedars here. We're also hoping that, I don't know how well you can see it, but those trees, not directly under the power line, but nearby, will be able to grow up and serve as another area where birds can nest and hide and feel protected. So we're really happy with how this is going so far. I'm staring at 2 chickadees right now. Every time I come out here, there are birds, and we're just so very thankful to Justin for building and having the vision for this bird blind, as well as the Frankfort Audubon Society. Now there's a hawk, now that I'm talking to you all. And everybody that's helped us with this project. It's still developing for sure and will be for years to come. It's going to change. So as we slowly open, I really encourage you all to come and check out this space. The whole park is constantly changing, but this space is really going to be rapidly changing, and it'll be fun to see how it changes and develops as the plants get taller, as flowers bloom, as the trees grow thicker and grow their leaves. It's just, I'm really excited about it, and I'm excited to share it with you all and provide more areas for nature connection. Oh, there are 2 goldfinch now on the feeder. So it's a good place to be here at JSP. All right. I also want to mention that I mentioned earlier you can plant a native meadow from seed, but you can also plant a very effective wildlife habitat in your yard with plant starts. So you can get native plants anywhere, well, not anywhere. Do some research and see where has some native plants. You can research what plants grow in your region. And the great thing about native plants is that they're adapted to the environment where we live. So once they're planted, as long as they're planted in an area that has their environmental conditions, such as the right light conditions, the right soil conditions, the right soil moisture conditions, then that plant's going to thrive there. So if you don't want to start something from seed, or if maybe you're impatient, or if you really just want that satisfaction of having plants already in your yard, I encourage you to do a little bit of research and plant those in your yard. It's very fun and provides you with incredible opportunities to see nature happen and witness those interactions. I have a native wildflower garden right in front of my window where I drink coffee every morning, and I have a bird feeder there, and I just love watching and witnessing the variety of bird species that come to that feeder, and all of the variety of insects that live and thrive and then pollinate all the plants there and other plants surrounding it. So it brings me a lot of joy. So part of the vision for this park is to restore habitat and to create habitat and have a mixture of meadow and forest. So in 2018, Josephine Sculpture Park was ecstatic and thankful to be chosen as the site for ReForest Frankfort, which is an annual reforestation effort that happens in different public areas throughout Frankfort. And it's coordinated by the Frankfort Parks, Recreation, and Historic Sites and several of their partners. And so with the help of the Parks Department and several of their dedicated workers and volunteers, some of you watching this video might have helped that year, JSP staff and board members, we planted 5,000 native saplings, so native Kentucky trees. I'm watching a dragonfly fly around right now, that's why I got a little distracted. So here's one of the trees, and we can tell that this was planted during ReForest because of this black mat here that every year they place around the base of the tree to discourage weeds growing around it or other vegetation that would compete with the sapling to help ensure its survival. So this tree is doing pretty well. So we got our pink flag on it. We know where it is. This is about 2.5 feet tall. And then just to show you the difference between different tree species, here's another tree planted during ReForest. You can see the mat. And then check out how tall this tree is. It's great. So we're coming upon the second native meadow restoration project. If you've been here before, I'm sure you've spun Jonathan Florence's piece here. It got a makeover recently. So this site, if you can see these sticks, this stick fence, beautifully made by park manager and artist in residence Riley Fichter and Joyce Bender, board member. So within these sticks, the boundary created by the sticks, here is, I think it's about an acre meadow that was planted, seed drilled by Inside Out Design. And so that was planted a few weeks ago with the native meadow mix. So this will be native wildflowers and grasses, I believe 15 different species. So this is just going to be gorgeous among the fantastic sculptures. So a large part of the work that we do here to improve habitat at Josephine Sculpture Park is remove non-native invasive plant species. And this whole park used to be a farm, and when Melanie and BJ moved back to the farm in 2008, they worked with Fish and Wildlife to come up with a plan of where to let vegetation grow up and where to leave some walking paths and meadows. And they just wanted to see what vegetation came up because they didn't know what was here, what plant species were already here. So it turns out there were some awesome native plant species here, like the yarrow we saw earlier, butterfly milkweed, that beautiful orange butterfly milkweed, other great tree species, eastern red cedar. We had a few oaks. But like other fields that are left fallow, you have a series of species that come with succession. So some of the common some of the first species that will come into an area or are already in the seedbed of an area are invasive, non-native invasive plants like honeysuckle, bush honeysuckle, calorie pear trees. We have poison hemlock, garlic mustard. And the reason why we work to remove these species and why we support invasive species removal is because those species are great at taking over a large area and using up the resources, the light, the soil nutrients, the space needed that other plants could grow, other native plants could be growing. And so when you have an abundance of invasive species that are able to flourish and spread in your area, they're really kind of choking out more diverse plant life, more native species that could be growing in certain areas. So in the case of garlic mustard grows often in understories of wooded areas. So that's also where spring ephemeral wildflowers are growing, which bring us so much beauty and are great for insects. So when you have garlic mustard growing everywhere and it spreads so successfully throughout the understory, then you're not going to have those spring ephemerals in your understory, for example. So we have some awesome volunteers, Andrew Kamak and Brian Baker and Joyce Bender with on our board, and some others, Nat Colton, my husband, Melanie, Riley, Emma. So many people have helped us with harvesting some of these more woody invasive species and creating brush piles. So we are removing, for example, with the calorie pear, a tree, and while we are removing that potential habitat site, we work to create a new habitat site. So some of these will be burn brush piles, but some of them we're going to leave. And so brush piles like this, you can have fun with it, make it sculptural. This is beautiful. A lot of the brush piles here are gorgeous, and we'll leave some of these. And this will be habitat throughout the year, and great overwintering habitat for insects and moths that overwinter, rabbits. So you can do this in your yard too, if you want to pick up the twigs, or even other like leaves, for example. If you don't want to leave your leaves in your yard, which I would recommend you do because it's a great way to increase the nutrients in your yard and build organic matter. But you can keep these twigs in a nice pile, maybe off to the side or in a corner, and that can become habitat. So just get a little creative with your yard maintenance, and with a little change of mind and a little bit of creativity and some fun, you can do art, make some cool brush piles, and create habitat at the same time. Thank you so much for participating in our first Sunday guided nature tour here at Josephine Sculpture Park, and that you enjoyed learning a bit about our conservation practices here, and that it gets you excited to visit us for the first time or come back and visit us again and witness all the changes once we are able to safely open. In the meantime, please check out all of our virtual resources on our Facebook page, our Instagram, and at josephinesculpturepark.org. You can also become a member of JSP for the first time ever. So if you believe in the work that we're doing and want to continue the support of art and nature and connecting with art and nature, head on over to our website at josephinesculpturepark.org/membership. And you can be a member at a variety of different levels, and you get cool swag based on your level. And you can join us next month for our first Sunday guided nature tour. We hope to be focusing a little bit on the bees that we have here with Lazy Dog Honey. So take care of yourselves, Please get outside when you can, and we hope to see you soon.